Hey, how you doing today? I am Tequila Coleman. In today's video, we're going to talk about 7 things to do while waiting on God to reveal who your God ordained spouse is. Now, this video is for those of you who are currently single and you don't know who your God ordained spouse is. Maybe you've been praying, asking God to reveal to you who is your God ordained spouse, and you haven't heard anything from the Lord, right? And you're like, well, what do I do, Tequila? This video is for you. Okay. I do recognize that I have a lot of single mothers who are still following my channel because I used to speak to single mothers. I used to coach and mentor successful single mothers. And so I am aware that some of these same single mothers I used to coach and mentor are still following my channel. And they are learning, what a God ordained marriage is. But for some of them, they feeling out of place. Some of them like, I don't know who my God ordained spouse is. Some can even be confusing their baby's father to be their God ordained spouse. So I want to just take the time out, like I said in this video, and just talk to those of you who are waiting and wondering, who is my God ordained spouse and what should I be doing while I wait for God to reveal this person to me? Okay. So here's 7 things you could start doing now, while you are waiting on God to reveal who your God ordained spouse is. Number one, I want you to learn the language. So as you are hearing me talk about prodigals, you hear me talk about counterfeit, you hear me talk about divine separation, right? I want you to learn the language so that when God ushers you into your season where now he's revealing to you who your God ordained spouse is, you already know the language. You already know how to identify, a prodigal. You already know about counterfeits, right? You already know about divine separation because you've been hearing me talk about it, okay? So I want you to learn the language. And also, when we talk about learning the language, also learn the language of witchcraft. Learn the stuff that I'm already bringing to the channel because it's going to help you to become one step or even 2 steps ahead in this process. Okay. The second thing you can do while waiting on God to reveal your God ordained spouse is just like how I was talking about learning the language, right, of a prodigal. Not only learning the language of a prodigal, but I want you to understand what it means to be a prodigal. I want you to know the behavior, the characteristics of a prodigal, and begin now to identify the prodigals that are currently in your life. Because even though we're talking about God ordained spouses, when you really know and learn what a prodigal is, and you take a look at your own family and friends, you may begin to identify, okay, wait a minute, my children's father is a prodigal. My father and mother might be prodigals, right? I might have some aunties and uncles in my family that are prodigals, right? And so when you really understand this language and you know what to look for, right, it just helps. It helps to prepare you on like how to deal with the individuals in your current life, right? If you already knowing this is a prodigal auntie, this is a prodigal father, I'm dealing with a prodigal, baby's father, right? And you knowing how to identify this now before God bring in your spouse, you're going to know exactly how to deal with a prodigal spouse when God introduced that to you. Okay. And you won't find yourself falling into the same traps of, going through the broken heart, allowing the enemy to attack you because you already learned the language. You already know, these are characteristics of a prodigal. So you already know what to do. Okay. So, like I said, number one, learn the language. Number two, identify the prodigals in your own life, okay? And deal with them accordingly, okay? We already know whenever God reveals to us this person, this individual is a prodigal, that means that person has the door open to the enemy. That person is no longer serving the Lord. So, divine separation, which leads me into number 3. The third thing is understand divine separation because divine separation is not just limited to a God ordained spouse. It doesn't just apply to God ordained marriages. See, when you take this to the Bible, remember God told Abraham to separate from Lot. And while Abraham was going on about his business, Lot was the one who, Lot was the one who was still, holding on to Abraham. But they got to a point where they became too big for the land. And quarreling broke out between the two of them, and it caused for the separation. Okay. So understand what divine separation means. We can also see divine separation taking place between Saul and David. Saul, because of his jealousy towards David, right, he kept trying to, harm him. And as a result, right, God was speaking to David, basically letting him know it's time to leave his present divine separation, right? So divine separation is not just limited to a God ordained spouse or a God ordained marriage. We see divine separation all the time. Whenever, you're dealing with a close family member or a close friend or even your baby's father or baby's mother, whenever, you try to make this relationship work or keep trying to keep the friendship going, but yet all these blockages keep coming up, or the person keep ghosting you, or they blocking you, or they becoming distant, or they becoming hurtful. These are clues that God is trying to tell you divine separation. He's trying to protect you from what you don't see, right? So understand what divine separation, what it means, how it look, know the sign. This is why I'm always posting up on our community tab, the signs to know God is calling for a divine separation. Okay. Some of those signs are when the person block you, or when they ghost you or disappear, or when you hear God say, let them go, or when you hear God say, leave, right? Or the person just keep on hurting you and hurting you, it's rejection after rejection. These are clues or signs that let you know God is calling for a divine separation. Okay. The fourth thing you can do while waiting on God to reveal who your God ordained spouse is, you could begin to pray now. You could begin to pray for your future spouse. You don't have to know who it is. Just begin to pray. God, I pray for my God ordained future spouse. I rebuke that spirit of pride. The same prayers you hear us praying, you could be praying this already concerning who your God ordained future spouse is, already partnering with God and getting that person, that individual ready. Okay. So you can already be the only thing here is you're not attaching any name to this prayer. You just leaving it open. And when you praying, you just praying, I'm praying for my God ordained future spouse. God, you know who this person is. So I rebuke every counterfeit coming, towards my God ordained spouse way. I rebuke that spirit of pride, that spirit of lust. I rebuke it and bind it. That spirit of anger, I rebuke it and bind it off of my God ordained future spouse, right? So you can start now praying for your God ordained future spouse and really just growing deeper in prayer. Okay. The fifth thing you can do, when we talk about waiting on God to reveal who your God ordained spouse is, know that while you're single, God is your husband. Okay. While you are single, God is your husband. So, whatever God is telling you to do right now, that's what you want to be focusing on doing. Okay. This is the time where you dedicate your time to the Lord, right? If God is calling you into prayer, go ahead and follow the leading of the Lord. God may tell you to step into purpose. That's exactly what you do, right? But right now, when you're single, singles are concerned about the Lord, okay, and His kingdom. When we get married, then we gotta, the Bible says we focus. I'm paraphrasing here. When we become married, then we focus on our husband, our family, okay, and God. I'm just paraphrasing here. But when you're single, you really focus on the Lord and what He is calling for you to do. Okay. So know that God is your husband while you are single. Number six, the sixth thing for you to do while waiting on God to reveal your God ordained spouse is understand, what it means to be a counterfeit. Know that there are counterfeit relationships, right? And then if you can, avoid these counterfeit relationships. And here's the thing, because sometimes we get involved in these relationships and we hear God telling us to let this individual go. We hear God telling us, do not be friends with this person. Do not hang out with this individual. Do not date this person. We hear God say this, but because we like the individual, because we probably already slept with the individual, we hold on. We holding on to counterfeits when God said, let these individuals go. So right now, I want you to learn what it means to be a counterfeit. Okay, understand the purpose of a counterfeit. And when you hear God tell you to let go of a certain person that is trying to pursue you or date you, let these individuals go. Avoid counterfeit relationships. Okay. And then number seven, the seventh thing to do while waiting on God to reveal your God ordained spouse is, just continue to prepare yourself. Stay in preparation mode. Okay. You can prepare yourself by, taking a look at your finances. Do you have any debt that you can start paying off now? Take a look at your health. Okay. How can you improve your health? You know, do you know what it means to be a wife? Do you know what it means to be a husband? Do you know who you are in Christ? Right? You know, this is the time for you to start preparing yourself, okay, for your God ordained future spouse. All right. So those are seven things you can do while single, while you waiting on God to reveal who your God ordained spouse is. You don't have to feel like this God ordained marriage, walk isn't for you. It is for you. You just haven't come into your season yet. Okay. So, like I said, learn the language, identify, what it means to be a prodigal, know the characteristics of a prodigal, understand divine separation, start now praying for your future spouse, understand that while you're single, God is your husband, avoid these counterfeit relationships, and stay ready. Stay ready so that when God say that's your God ordained spouse, you are already ready. Okay, so that is it. I am Tequila Coleman. I'll talk to you all real soon. Take care.